everyone. My name is Gabriel Anson Gabriel, and today I'm going to discuss about the geography of Africa.
Africa is the world's second largest continent after Asia. It runs 5,000 miles from the Mediterranean Sea all the way down to the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa, and 4,600 miles from Cape Verde all the way over to Somalia that gives Africa a grand total of 30 million square kilometers, which is three times the size of the United States.
It is also the second most populous continent with 1.3 billion people as of 2018. It accounts for about 16% of the world's human population. Africa is the richest continent in terms of natural resources, animal and plant life. It covers 6% of the Earth's total surface area and 20% of land area. It also boasts the largest desert and the longest river in the world. Africa has five regions: the North Africa, South Africa, Central Africa, East Africa, and West Africa.
There's also a wide range of physical features in Africa. First, there's of course the desert. The most famous deserts in Africa are the Sahara Desert, the Namib Desert, and the Kalahari Desert. But there's also bodies of water that can be found in Africa, and there's lots of different examples. Let's start with rivers. The Congo River, which is the ninth longest river in the world. And of course, the Nile River, which is the most famous river in Africa because it's the longest river in the world. Africa actually has its own version of the Great Lakes too, like Lake Malawi, Lake Victoria, and Lake Tanganyika. In addition to these lakes, you also have to recognize the major bodies of water that form the border around Africa, including the Mediterranean Sea, Red Sea, Atlantic Ocean, and the Indian Ocean. Then, there's elevated land. Now, the first thing that we need to address here is that Africa is a plateau. What is plateau? So it's an area of fairly level high ground related to the surrounding area, and we're saying that all of Africa is a plateau, meaning that Africa itself is elevated land. But that doesn't mean that you can find any mountains in Africa. You can find mountain ranges like, for example, the Atlas Mountains in northwestern Africa that will look very similar to any other mountain range that you might see. But Africa also has some interesting mountains, like Mount Kilimanjaro. It is the highest peak in Africa, which seems to just rise on its own out of the ground. There's another feature that makes Africa unique, and that is the Great Rift Valley. This refers to a region of Africa that's literally being split apart. There are some tectonic plates that are located within or near Africa that are actually moving away from each other. And what that's doing is creating not just some of the highest elevation in Africa, but also lakes, like Lake Tanganyika, that are among the deepest in the world. The shifting of these tectonic plates creates some of the most breathtaking landscape in all of Africa. Natural resources play an important part of Africa's economy. The good thing is, Africa has lots of natural resources. However, these resources are not necessarily evenly distributed between the different African nations, nor are they necessarily evenly distributed within nations. These can lead to conflicts or even civil war. A great example of this is South Sudan, which became independent as recently as 2011. Another problem that Africa faces is that while some countries do have lots of natural resources, they don't necessarily have the financial resources to be able to take advantage of them, and as a result, you can see that Africa geography continues to influence Africa today.
Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening.